Hi, I'm Commissioner Mike McKeon, and I'd like to welcome everyone to another episode of the Public Works Pipeline. With me today, special guest Mike Spataco. Mike, thanks for coming out today.
Thanks for having me.
Mike is the president of the Belmont Hills Civic Association. So today we're going to have a special theme of Belmont Hills, which traditionally a lot of public works employees have hailed from Belmont Hills, and Belmont Hills has had a lot to do with the overall development of the community of Lower Merion, with various contributions over time. So, Mike, can you just tell everyone a little bit about your background?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am president of the Belmont Hills Civic Association. Came into that role just with a desire to help out a little bit. I wanted a new playground up there and wanted to work whatever mechanics I could to make that happen for my boys and, get rid of that old horse that I used to go on when my grandparents would take me up there, and I think that speaks to the kind of community that Belmont Hills is. It's a very familial place, a lot of families that have been there for dozens, generations, 100 years. I mean, my family had been there for 100 years prior to me getting here.
So like in relative terms, you guys are sort of newcomers.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a great little community, and never ceases to amaze me how much it steps up. Whenever there's a need, if there's a cleanup day, if there's, something, when we get rained out twice for one of our events, the parents that are coming and helping out, just everybody always chips in, and that's the kind of neighborhood it is.
And I have to confess to everyone, I'm actually not from Belmont Hills. I don't live in Belmont Hills. I live really close to Belmont Hills.
But he's a very good friend to Belmont Hills and helps out on a lot of issues with us. So it's much appreciated, and even though you may not live within the bounds, you always look out for us, and it's something that we appreciate.
Yeah, and I always appreciate the passion that comes back from Belmont Hills residents.
Usually that passion sparks itself when you try and put up an apartment complex. When somebody comes in from Houston is like, how would you like 175 apartments? That's when you start to see the passion.
Yeah, if not always well received.
You know what? People have a vision for the neighborhood, and it looks a lot like what it looks like now. And so when someone comes in with an idea of change, you start to see that people do appreciate Belmont Hills for what it is, and they've sought Belmont Hills as a destination because it's something that is Lower Merion but gives you a bit more urban touch because you're closer to Merion and you have access to the city a bit more easily than some of the other areas. I love it there.
Yeah, and to people who may not know, so Belmont Hills is basically sandwiched Penn Valley on one side, and then the edge of Valley Canyon on the other, and then the Green Lane Bridge going to Manayunk and the expressway. So it's kind of the edge of Lower Merion.
Yep.
Now, if somebody wanted to get involved with your Civic, you have monthly meetings, right?
Yep, we have a meeting. It is traditionally the first Monday of every month. That will be the case for November and I believe December as well. And you can find out about our meetings on Facebook, Belmont Hills Civic Association, and we have a website as well. You can go there and find out a little bit of information. The meetings have been on Zoom. We are hoping to get back to the library, and looking forward to getting kicked out by Evan at the library like we used to, like old times.
It's 7:45 or so, right?
7:45, 8 o'clock. Yeah, it is
not long meetings, which is very
correct.
Important.
It's a 6:30 to 8 o'clock absolute max. I mean, if it goes to 8 o'clock, we had big attendance and people concerned about issues. At that point, we'll keep going, right? I mean, the idea is to give everybody the opportunity to bring issues to light. I mean, when I first moved in, you would see things happen and all of a sudden there's trouble after the fact. So what we try and do is bring these issues to light ahead of time, get people's concerns on the table, and work with elected leaders like yourself and the township to make it all move in the right direction.
And I like how you guys, like I said, quick meetings, you're focused what the issues are. If there's a lot of issues, the meeting could take a little bit longer, but you're not there to waste anybody's time. It's
Absolutely
there to gather as a community. And now in terms of dues too, right, what are the Belmont Hills Civic dues if somebody wanted to contribute or donate?
So the top membership level for a family is $20, and there's a senior discount, there's an individual discount, and if $20 is too much, then whatever you can do, whether it's monetary, volunteer efforts, we're open to contributions in many different avenues, and I think it speaks to, we try to be flexible, right? The idea is however you can help out, any little bit helps, and if you get lost in the fact that, oh, I can't make $1,000 contribution and volunteer 150 hours, that's fine, right?
Yeah,
we'll take what we can get.
$20 a household.
Absolutely,
I think it's $10
we'll take what we
an
can get.
individual,
Yeah.
$5 for a senior. So, and then the stuff that you do with that budget, Easter egg hunt, right, where the Easter bunny actually comes too.
Yep.
The Belmont Hills Day, summer movie day that you just had, that was for the first time, right?
That was
summer.
really cool. Yeah, I was
Can you tell
very
everybody
excited about
how
that.
that went for the first time.
That was something where we had talked a number of times, and you had been there for it, where we said we're starting to build a little bit of a surplus. We tried to make some cost-cutting measures without having to lose any of the events that we did over the past couple of years, and that resulted in a bit of a surplus, a membership increase, and we wanted to do something cool with it. So the outdoor movie came about, and we used Merion Park. I got a company to come and do the movie, and Lisa Fusara, who is the vice president of Civic, is a phenomenal partner, and couldn't get through the Civic without her. She's amazing.
Yeah, and I agree. I'm not just saying it because I know she's watching.
She's
but
great.
Yeah, she's
Always. Yeah. But she she had the idea for an ice cream truck. So we had an ice cream truck, we had a popcorn machine, and when I got up there about 30 minutes early, to make sure that everything was, people were already set up. There were 5 or 6 families who had already come and set up, and I remember my girlfriend saying, they're here for the movie, and I was like, no, they're not. There must be something else. She's like, Mike, there's a cooler, they have a blanket. So we had turnout and attendance for it like I couldn't have imagined, and was really excited. So we're going to do another one again in the spring. Really excited for that, because it brought more eyeballs to the Civic and the Civic events than anything has in quite a while.
Right, and you have a Halloween parade, right? That's annual.
We do. That's actually coming up a couple days now on Friday.
Do you have your costume ready, or you
getting there?
All right, so it's not going to be a Spataco. That's what it was last year, right?
Yeah, I was a giant taco last year. My boy Michael and I were both tacos.
And then there's the winter holiday decorating contest too.
Yep, the holiday decorating contest, that was also Lisa's idea, and it coincided last year and will again this year with the winter event out front of the Belmont Hills fire station, where it was just hot chocolate and cookies, and someone dropped the ball just a little bit and allowed that to be scheduled opposite an Eagle game. And
which the Eagles won, I think, right?
I think they did, but I take personal responsibility for that one. It won't happen again, Mike.
Wow.
All right.
With all the events we've just discussed, these are all great family events. If you grow up with a family in Belmont Hills, these are things you can do, and you can participate.
That's the goal.
When you're older, decorate your house and everything. So that's really nice.
Yeah.
And you also host the Civic does cleanup events, and the Civic is also helping to take care of the traffic island at Mary Watersford Road, which sometimes if you go by and you see what might look like weeds or brush, that's actually plantings.
Right, that's plantings, and that's a pet project of somebody in the neighborhood who takes a lot of time and puts a lot of energy and effort into it, so that's much appreciated. But yeah, we try to put together a nice family atmosphere, and there's not too many communities left, right? That you can really go to a neighbor and say, hey, I need a cup of sugar, or I need an egg. Belmont Hills really is one of those, and the only way you keep that rolling is with things like this. And it doesn't have to be constant, but the attendance that we've gotten has been uplifting. It's been really great. And the last cleanup event that we had, what did we have, 25, 30 people there? We took 1,000 pounds from 1,000 pounds of brush and trash and whatever else from La Colina to the gas station at the bottom on Old Jefferson there. And
which the township's refuse department picked up, so we appreciate them.
Instantaneous pickup. That was awesome. It was like, you put the bags down there and boom, they were there. So the township has always been a great friend of ours, and everything we ask for, they help out and deliver with, and we just appreciate the opportunity. November 6th, or I apologize, November 13th, we're having the next cleanup day. So that's a Saturday morning, 11 a.m.er, and hoping to have some good turnout and make a little progress there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, just in terms of Belmont Hills being the family community, and you talk about how tight-knit things are, has its own pool, right? So there's a pool there, the library, and that's where the Civic had been meeting, in the back room of the library.
The library just got redone, too,
right,
and is beautiful. If you haven't been up there, go take a look, because it's really...
They stepped up and were a venue for an Easter egg hunt one time, right, when there was poor weather.
That they worked. Poor weather 2 weekends in a row, and we got rained out the second weekend, and now it was the Saturday prior to Easter. So what are we going to do? We're just going to have an egg hunt after the fact? Like, we'll just be looking for eggs next week? And so was happy to talk to the library when they had just been redone. I'm like, do you mind if we bring a couple muddy people in there? And they were so great about it. They've always been a great partner to us.
And the kids seemed so happy, too.
The kids were psyched. And that was the exact instance that I was talking about, where the community stepped up, because I'm going, how am I going to hide these eggs?
Right.
I got there's a lot of eggs here, and there's kids everywhere. So all the kids went back into the room where we usually have the civic meeting. We hid the eggs for, I think, the youngest kids, and then aged it out piece by piece, and it went so smoothly and great, and appreciate the library's help.
Well, and with that, we're going to wrap up the first portion here of the show. We're going to come back and talk a little bit more about the features in Belmont Hills, and then go to the inflammatory Public Works mailbag for some Q&A there. So please stick around, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Hi, I'm Commissioner Mike McKeon, and I'd like to welcome everyone back to the second portion of the Public Works pipeline. With me is our special guest, Mike Spatacco. Mike, thank you for not leaving during the break. Appreciate that. And
it's locked up pretty well.
Yeah, well, we're going to cut right to the chase here. We're going to go right to the Public Works pipeline mailbag, because it's gotten just huge, and we got to do something about it. So, anything written on that one. So, yeah, that's fine. Our first question here comes from a Dr. Lecter in Gladwin, and Dr. Lecter writes, Captain McKeon, a neighbor of mine, Buffalo Bill, has been keeping several unrelated people in his home, possibly against their will. Can this be looked into? And you may not know, Dr. Lecter, frequent contributor. I mean, I wish everyone had the great thoughts that he does in the township. Fantastic guy. I guess he's getting at a group home and what the compliance procedures would be for that. So, under the Lower Merion Township Code, the use of a property as a group home is permissible, provided that no more than 3 unrelated people live there. So the township can perform an inspection to determine whether the use is compliant. I just say, Dr. Lecter, I mean, there's not much I can do for you right now, but you can reach out to Ernest Pendleton at Building and Planning, and the township can certainly look into things.
Does it matter if the person's in a well?
That could be a criminal violation, actually,
okay.
Depending. Right. Yeah, I don't know. We've changed our zoning code. I don't know if in terms of uses for wells.
I know Dr. Lecter had some, sewer and well water issues.
He has some naysayers, I think, but he may just be a little bit misunderstood. The next question is actually for you. This comes from Senator Pat Geary, and the senator writes, Mr. Spatacco, I am from the great state of Nevada. What can you tell someone like me, who is not from Belmont Hills, what Belmont Hills is all about?
Belmont Hills is all about a great family atmosphere and a wonderful place to raise your kids, and know that you can count on your neighbors to take care of you in times of need.
Yeah, and you can't say that about a lot of places, unfortunately.
I would say that's true.
Our next question comes from a Mr. Marcus Hook. I don't know where Marcus Hook is from, but he says, let's see, Mike and Mike, what is the history of Belmont Hills?
Belmont Hills was West Manayunk back in the day. I mean, way back when. And then the nickname Goat Hill was in place for a while, and Belmont Hills came about, I want to say, around the turn of the...
I think it's about 1950s.
Yeah, like 1950, 40, after World War II, and you started to see a bit more development. Some of the neighborhoods started to take shape, and names of roads, and all of a sudden, here we are, Belmont Hills.
And anticipating this very question, I did a little research myself too. So it was actually called Rocky Hill, and then it became West Manayunk in 1838 when the Reading Railroad was built, or as my in-laws would say, the Reading Railroad. And then in the 1880s, immigrants from Italy began to arrive. Many descended from Christian Albanians who had fled to settle in southern Italy. They sent for relatives, and by 1914 there was a large Albanian and Italian population in Belmont Hills.
Yep. And
as we said before, many of these families have stuck around for generations. This question, this is to both of us. This is from a Dale. He says, "Are bonita fish big?"
I think they're a trophy fish, right? They're like huge.
Yeah, they're pretty big, I would think.
Yeah, if you find yourself fishing with the cubes, that's
Jeff Probst, maybe. You never know. But that's kind of a bad question. I wouldn't blame Dale for ruining the show, but that's not a particularly on-point question.
It's not relevant, but it's interesting nonetheless.
This next one comes from Miss Veronica Vaughn, and she lives on Madison Avenue. She says, "I am deeply troubled by the condition of the expressway underpass near the Green Lane Bridge. Can you pinheads tell me what is going on over there?"
I would say that Miss Vaughn has a valid gripe, and that's something that we have been working on for probably 2 years at this point, but it has been an extreme area of focus over the last 6 months just because of what's happened down by the gas station, and as it carries out towards Green Lane. There's something going on down there that's unacceptable, I guess would be the one way to put it. And Miss Vaughn catches a good point that we need to do more. We've started to do some things. We've had some lights replaced. I know there was a ballast issue, but we're working on it. But the problem is not solved by any means, but it is something that we're trying really hard to work on.
Right. I mean, it's not the responsibility of residents, but when you break it down, so the underpass area is PennDOT and a state responsibility, and we've been coordinating with our state rep, and she's very recently had some stuff set up that looks like there was a cleanups and some other things that have been done. And at the township level, we've tried to do some parking on Old Belmont and some other things. We had a phone booth recently removed, and then residents have stepped up again. Like you talk about the cleanup events, been cleaning up that area of Jefferson and Old Belmont, not right by the underpass, but basically right next to it. So
one thing leads to another, right? And we firmly believe that the parking on Old Belmont, we worked very hard with the police department to get proper regulations in place to make that parking temporary, because there's some transitory movements from that parking area over to where you see panhandling on the I-76 off-ramp, and where you see somebody with like a refrigerator box Hilton and an iPad stand set up underneath the underpass.
Presumably living under the underpass.
They got to be going to and from, and so.
Well, and I saw somebody get dropped off on the expressway on the ramp coming down. She got out of a car, had her cardboard sign to go and panhandle and set up. So the individuals could be coming from different places, and I'm not here to sort of judge what they're doing, but it's in terms of just cleaning up the area, keeping it safer. That's the
that seems like something we should get after.
The overriding goal. So thank you, Ms. Vaughn.
Yes, ma'am.
The next one comes from a Danny Noonan, and Danny says, "I'm a renter living on Jefferson Street. How does the Civic and Township address safety in Belmont Hills?" And we've basically been getting at that a little bit about trying to clean up some of these areas. The police can come in for traffic safety issues and do studies on roads. When you have your civic meetings, an officer was always coming when they were in person.
In person.
So hopefully we can get the officers to come back out again. But I think that it's really helpful because the police will discuss trends and other things going on, right? Like lock your car doors. That's really important.
I think people had the opportunity to bring a gripe to the police where calling the police might feel too formal. I know I personally don't like to call the police about anything because I don't want to waste their time.
Right.
When I see some homeless stuff going on, and it's always been said, "Oh, we'll call the police. Call the police." I don't want to ruin their night, right? I understand the situation that puts them in, so I'm hesitant to do it. And I think our civic meetings gave the community a great opportunity to say, I have been kind of seeing a little bit of this and that without putting themselves on official record with it. So it's been something that we appreciate. We appreciate the partnership with the police, and they helped us with Ashland. We did a traffic study there to try and reduce some of the speeding and take some measures, and it takes all of us, right? It takes the entire street,
that's the thing,
everybody on board working in the same direction, but we can get stuff done.
Right. When groups come together, and it doesn't have to be, it could be residents, whatever, the power from that is so much more because people just can't do things on their own. It's really important to help each other out. So, and I've always appreciated the support back that I've gotten from the Civic in trying to do things, because there's some, I can only push certain ways for things, but when you come out and you speak in a unified manner like that, it's so much more powerful. So our next one's from Mr. McBain. McBain writes, "What's up with the new parking restrictions on Old Belmont Avenue? How long can I park my Jeep and my goggles there?" So the parking restrictions, this is actually a really topical question by McBain. Yeah. As a result of discussions with the Civic, the police were able to put up these 8-hour parking restriction signs on Old Belmont, which is behind the Sunoco and the Wawa there, and that's done to eliminate dumped vehicles, abandoned vehicles, long-term parking.
Long-term parking, right? That's it. We've all seen the U-Hauls. We've all seen the ones that are there for long term, and the only way to get through that is to make it costly for the owner of the vehicle. And we didn't want, I think we had initially looked at 2 or 4 hour, but we realized that might have an impact on people working at Willie's shop or people who are working at Wawa or A+. That wasn't our goal. Our goal was to try and make it more difficult to live there. Right.
Yeah. So you get your 8 hours that you can park there, you can work, but if you want to dump a car for 3 weeks or something like that,
maybe
and then
elsewhere.
Yeah, that adds to the blight. So this one comes from a Dr. Beeper, lives in Ballackinwood, and he writes, "Where have the Public Works pipeline hand puppets been?" And this has kind of been a difficult situation, but they've actually been suspended by LMTV for conduct not becoming a mascot. They're going through some things. They're in a bit of a dark place now, but if you could just kind of keep them in your thoughts a little bit.
Thoughts and prayers for the mascots.
Yeah. And so we were finishing up the first segment talking about some of the amenities in Belmont Hills, but some of the other things, McMurrin Park, what can you tell everybody about that?
McMurrin Park has 2 baseball fields, tennis courts, a new and wonderful playground
that your kids
for kids. Yeah. Right. Old section, young section. There's also a full hockey rink, a roller hockey rink with boards, and it is lit. It's lit until about 9 p.m. And so you can find yourself a game down there almost every night, and a basketball court as well, and a nice little walking park around it.
And Belmont Hills Fire Company, been around since 1919.
The greatest.
Right, huge part. It's kind of odd that we finally got to it at this point here, but such a part of the community. And you were actually a volunteer firefighter?
I was, yeah. Many years ago, out with Paoli when I was growing up, I was a firefighter. But really appreciate the partnership that we have with the Belmont Hills Fire Department. They're one of the best partners we could imagine.
All right, and before we wrap up today, Mike, I did have something special. I appreciate you coming out here, and we always try to give our our guests of the Public Works Pipeline some kind of a gift.
Thank you. That's very nice.
Yeah, wanted to give you our Public Works Pipeline fruit basket, which I think. No, I apologize. It's not here. Let's see. There's a note says, "Many thanks for the fruit baskets. They were a big hit at the Bryn Mawr Farmers Market." Scott. So thank you, Scott, for taking our fruit basket. But I apologize.
I'm excited to have come.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. And thank you everyone for tuning in, and please check out next month's episode.